Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests from around the world, I'd like to welcome you all to today's event. Yesterday, on the 4th of June, young people aged between 11 and 20 took part in the Let's Talk event, which focused on three themes. The first one was cycling culture, changing the way we look at bikes, and it was delivered by Karen Overton from New York. The second one was young people and digital technology and how what we can do in Leicester to help young people feel as global citizens. And the third one was Community 2012 and what is it and how young people can be involved. To tie in with the Building Cycles Cycling Culture Conference, this is the feedback from ideas that came up in the discussions about the cycling cultures in Leicester. And the first question we asked the young people was, why cycle and what would make cycling better in the city? And some of the things that came up was if cycling was made safer in the city, it's not so safe at the minute on roads and in the city, so young people thought if it was made a bit more safer with better cycle routes and more cycling provision that make them cycle a bit more. There was also talks about more tours and more fun rides, so young people could take part in maybe fun ride around the city or more guided tours for young people on bikes. There's also about bike safety and theft prevention. Most young people felt their bikes aren't so safe. They're usually scared that they could get stolen. We also spoke about how we can promote cycling amongst young people in the city, and one of the ideas that came up was having some sort of bike documentary aimed at young people, which would be for young people, by young people, and it wouldn't be on the conventional documentary routes where it's just talk and a bit of pictures. It'd be more fun and interactive for young people. It'd have a storyline behind it, and it involved young people from the processes of making the documentary all the way to presenting it to adults and young people. Also, we had some discussion about sharing best practice, learning from other countries. For example, New York have a bike to school day, which we could replicate in Leicester, and we could learn from successful projects from around the world where cycling amongst young people is quite popular and where there's been brilliant provisions in place for young people to cycle more. We also had a brilliant idea from one of the young people about getting the local members of parliament to cycle to work for a day or so, and even setting up a challenge for the new city mayor to maybe cycle to work or get his assistant mayors and cabinet to cycle to work for a week or so to promote cycling as a more green initiative. And it's something that's really been spoke about quite a bit recently because the new mayor's also pledged to work on making the city more greener and more carbon neutral. So that's what some of the young people felt. We could get the mayor to support cycling as well. Also, another question was, is cycling an issue? And young people said there needs to be critical masses for young people as well to take part, because the current ones which are in place aren't very much aimed at young people. They're more for the older generation, so a special critical mass for young people. We also spoke about what campaigns could be run, and we learned that New York has a Learn to Bike program which is aimed at 6 to 30-year-olds. So we felt that we have bikeability in Leicester where young people in schools are taught how to ride a bike, but there's not much continuity, and that was a recurring theme through most of the questions, that these provisions we have in place only last for a certain amount of time, like 6 to 8 weeks, and then after that there's no continuity. The schools don't do much to promote cycling afterwards, after those programs end in schools. So what we felt though was maybe incorporating it into some sort of PE schedule, so maybe once a month or something, schools in their PE lessons could have a bike related PE lesson in the physical education part of their work, because we felt the physical education in school is more targeted at just football and conventional sports rather than cycling, when cycling is a vital sport. And not only a vital sport, it's very good because it's not only good for the health, but it's an effective way of cheaper and more environmentally friendly transport, which young people can optimize to the maximum if done safely. We also asked the young people what would make them want to cycle more, and they said there needs to be more provision for cycling facilities like bikeability for not only young people but young people and families as well. So because they felt that there's a generation gap where the parents of many young people don't cycle, and that's the reason why the young people aren't so encouraged to cycle. And there's loads of myths about the safety of cycling as well. So breaking these stereotypes and these myths, the best way to do so would be having family bikeability, where young people would be encouraged with their parents to come along and learn how to cycle, because it's mostly seen that the parents of young people who can't cycle themselves are usually not so encouraging to get their young people to cycle, because they've always had that feeling about the bikes not being so safe. So to involve families would be a best way of getting more young people to feel more confident, more parents feeling confident about letting their young people travel to school and colleges on bikes. We also had the young people speak about setting up some sort of youth bike ride club where young people could go with a group of young people to cycle around the city, and having more incentives for young people to cycle. So having some sort of accreditation award at school where they'd be awarded with certificates and accreditations on learning different stages of cycling and safety. Also producing a youth bike map. We have currently many cycle route maps which outline the cycle routes around the city, but they're not very youth friendly. They're very much oriented at the adults. We spoke about having something like there's a special bike map for young people designed in New York where they've put landmarks of the city, such as the local libraries and the local cinemas on the map, so young people know whereabouts they are and where the routes are. It's easier for them to understand the maps with better icons and stuff. There was even speaks about, Karen told us about the local pizza parlors being drawn up on the maps as well to help young people know their way around. So we thought maybe something similar to that, having a map which had places like the Phoenix, the Curve, the City Town Hall being highlighted with icons so young people knew where the cycle routes are. Also, we had a bit of a discussion about the youth bike summit in Leicester and how that would be done. And many young people felt it should be delivered and led by young people, from the planning stages to the delivering and evaluating as well. So it's for young people, by young people. Also having some sort of bike exchange where young people, a delegation of young people from New York would come down to Leicester with their bikes and send a delegation back from Leicester to New York to have some sort of bike exchange and twinning between the two cities. Like we've seen many schools do twinning projects, and they're very successful, where they get young people from different countries to come down, and then young people from here go to those countries as an exchange project to learn more about the cultures. So we thought we could learn more about the cycling cultures of young people in New York by sending a delegation across. We also felt that there could be the summit could be separated and spread out over 3 different venues. So the young people taking part in the summit would have to cycle from one venue to another to take part in different workshops. That way they'd get a tour of the city as well as taking part in the conference. And also development of a 10-year youth action plan around the city, agreed by different countries, so everyone's singing from the same sheet. And all the other ideas are on the handout given earlier before the thing. I hope you enjoyed my little feedback. Thank you.